This is the latest Factor Ostro VAM, and according to Factor, it is unbeatable. You can of course guess what we're going to do in today's video then. Yep, we're going to try and beat it, and I'm fairly confident that we can. Now, you might be expecting me to pull a Pinarello Dogma or a Canyon Aero or some other superbike from over here. And in a few weeks, I will, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel for that. But no, today, I'm going to be using this. This is a decade-old, very bright, 2014, Specialized SL4 Tarmac. I suppose I better explain why. You see, if we rewind to just before Christmas, and I was very excited when this Ostro VAM arrived at the office. Why was I so excited? Well, because it's been independently tested to be one of the very fastest bikes on the market right now. And I am a simple man, I like fast bikes. Unfortunately, this bike managed to annoy me before I'd even managed to finish building it. Mainly because, whilst mounting this integrated bar and stem, I noticed that it is incredibly, almost ridiculously wide. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not one of those people that think we should all be wobbling around on 32cm bars. But after riding this Factor on my local testing loop, I was starting to wonder if this bike was very fast at all. It got me wondering, is this a fast bike being ruined by wide bars? Perhaps the Ostro VAM just isn't as fast as Factor says it is. Or is it actually fast, but it just doesn't feel it because of the more relaxed riding position? And that is where this decade-old SL4 comes in. It doesn't have super aero internal cables. It doesn't have a really deep head tube, or bladed forks even. What it does have is some good old-fashioned round profile tube shapes and a set of rim brake deeps. Also, and this is the most important bit, it has a fairly low aggressive position and 38cm bars, which should put me in a more aero position. The premise is clear then. Is a non-aero bike that I doubt even Specialized says will be quicker than one of the fastest bikes in the pro peloton? To find out which one's faster, we've mapped out a 20k route. It's got about 70 meters of elevation gain, so a flat real life route. It's not perfectly flat, but there's no steep hills. Gonna try and ride at constant power, 260 watts. That should give me an average speed of about 35 kph, which I think, well, I hope it's enough to see a difference if there is one, without being stupid speeds that none of us could ever manage. So yeah, Factor's going first. We're gonna do it twice on each bike, and let's see which one's fastest. Ah, that's new. Bike one, try one, done. I should also say it's freakishly still today, which is good. I was also thinking on my way around, I should say that this could make Factor look not so good. And this isn't a reflection on Factor. I mean, it's annoying they sent me a bike with this size of bar. They really do feel wide whilst riding around, because 42 at the tops, it actually flares out a bit, so it's even wider on the drops. That's what I'd use on a gravel bike. It's generally the rules to match your shoulders to your bars, and mine, I know that my shoulders are about a 38.5. Going back to the whole Factor thing, I should actually praise Factor, because if you go on their website and want to buy a new bike, then you can actually choose your stem length, your bar width, your crank length, and that is really good, because if you're spending 13 grand on a bike, then it needs to fit you. And yeah, see if the SL4 can beat it. Getting dark.
How was that?
Yeah, I think I'll check when I'm back, but I think that that one was 14 seconds faster and 3 watts less. So I think we might have just proved that modern superbikes are shit. No, I don't think we proved that. But I think aero positions are just really important. And well, there's a few bits of research that I want to show you back at the studio. But there is a few things about it, like it's so much harsher to ride. There's a like real bumpy bit of road and it was a bit bone rattly, and that's with the same size tyres and the same pressures. I think the rims are a bit skinnier because they've got to fit in the rim brakes. And rim brakes, they were perfect nearly all the time, apart from there was a bit of a damp corner, and damp carbon rim brakes, the front one you just felt it like pulsing on and off, which you don't get on the disc brakes. But yeah, the main difference, this bike's just as light, clearly it's just as fast, it was nowhere near as comfortable, and that's an aero bike. Aero bikes are meant to be uncomfortable. Guess we'd better go and look at some results properly. Well, the Factor Ostro VAM went first, and it completed our 17.8 kilometre loop in a time of 30 minutes and 35 seconds. That works out to be an average speed of 34.9 kilometers per hour. Oh, and before anyone says anything, yep, we're looking at a slightly shorter segment now, as we had to stop for a car on one of the lanes at the end of the route on 2 occasions, so we decided to ignore the final 2 kilometers or so and just look at the uninterrupted riding. The SL4 went next. That completed our test route in a freakishly similar 30 minutes and 36 seconds. That too works out to be 34.9 kilometers an hour, or around 21.7 miles an hour for those of you that would rather some good old-fashioned English. It was all down to the second runs then, and the Factor failed to go faster, this time clocking a time of 30 minutes 45, around 0.2 kilometers an hour slower than it had done earlier in the day. The older SL4 though, clearly it just needed a warm-up, and set the quickest time of the day, a 30:31, making it the only bike to crack the 35 km an hour barrier. If we take the average of the runs, then that does mean that the Aero Position, that's the SL4, was quicker overall, but only by about 6 seconds, which as we can see from the runs, is probably less than the margin of error of this test. Was this whole thing a waste of time then? Well no, I don't think so. The Factor Ostro VAM is a bike that we know should be quicker, and yet in our testing, it wasn't, whichever way you spin the data. Whilst you should always take real-world testing results with a pinch of salt, I think that we can categorically say that an aero position is more important than an aero bike. Since doing this test, I've been doing tons of research to see whether the results are consistent with what other people have found. Because, let's be honest, it does seem wild to think that a decade-old, external cabled, skinny tubed climbing bike could possibly be faster, or even as fast, as one of the latest and greatest all-rounders. And the result of all this research? Well, I think ours stands up in court. You see, despite there not being much wind tunnel data for anyone riding at speeds of less than 40 km an hour, we can extrapolate data when they provided CDA values. Of all the tests I've looked at, I think that you can expect to save between around 5 and 15 watts when riding at 35 km an hour, on the flat, if you were to upgrade to a decent but not very aerodynamic bike to one of these latest everything integrated superbikes. With said wattage saving, we would have expected to see the Factor being around 15 to 25 seconds faster on our testing loop, which clearly wasn't the case. So, will going narrower make you faster? In my case it clearly has, but it's fair to say that we made a pretty big jump. The Factor measures 45.5 centimeters at the drops, and the Tarmac just 38 centimeters, around 17% less. I've looked at all kinds of data for narrower bars making you faster, and whilst nearly everyone agrees that they are faster, it's up for debate on exactly how much. For example, you might have wider shoulders than me, or stick your elbows out more if you were to use a narrower bar. I will just leave you with these clips that I've recently seen from clothing manufacturer Rule 28, because I think they really help to hammer home just how important body position is on the bike. Yes, these tests are at 45 km an hour, but we're not talking about a few watts like there is between the top end road bikes. This is where the biggest gains are to be had, and they might not cost you a penny. So, am I saying don't go out and buy a fancy new road race bike? No, if you want one, go and spend some money on one. if you want to go faster on the bike, make sure you've taken advantage of the big gains first. That is before spending an absolute bomb on what are really marginal gains. Apologies to all the bike manufacturers' PR departments. Let us know whether you expected the Tarmac to win down in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and we'll see you next time.